These are some of the people who've sought refuge from the repressive North Korean regime, often risking their lives. But ever since Kim Jong-un took over, it's become harder to cross North Korean borders.
Videos too horrific to detail have recently emerged from North Korea, revealing the awful conditions endured by its citizens. Living in what can only be described as a hellish existence, every misstep risks severe consequences, even death. The passing of Kim Il-sung, the nation's founding leader in 1994, intensified the regime's grip, compelling citizens to publicly display their grief, resulting in haunting scenes of widespread sorrow. What secrets lie within these secret recordings obtained from a regime known for its iron-fisted control? Join us as we delve into why North Korean authorities are desperate to suppress these videos at any cost. 10 days of silence. This period of mourning lasted for 10 days, during which the government made sure that no one showed any happiness or engaged in fun activities. Even the national flags were hung at half-mast, showing a somber atmosphere throughout the country. According to official statements, more than 2 million people were involved in these highly controlled mourning events. These events were intended to strengthen the sense of unity and allegiance among the people within the country, and no international leaders were invited to attend. Moving ahead to 2017, a dramatic event highlighted how far some individuals would go to break away from the constraints of North Korean life. A soldier made a desperate and life-threatening attempt to escape by running across the border while being shot at. This bold move, full of danger and personal risk, emphasizes the extreme measures some are willing to take to escape the oppressive control of their rulers. This incident and the forced public mourning are examples of how tightly the government controls its people, using fear and strict rules to maintain order. These actions, from orchestrated public grieving to the dangerous flight of a soldier, show the lengths to which the regime will go to keep its hold over the people. They also show the resilience and bravery of individuals who risk everything for a chance at freedom. Such stories, though sometimes slipping out into the wider world, highlight the ongoing struggles and the harsh realities of life under such a controlling regime. In 2017, a young soldier decided to flee from the harsh clutches of North Korea. Dodging a barrage of gunfire, he sprinted towards the border in a dramatic act of desperation, demonstrating the drastic steps some people take to escape in search of basic freedoms. His daring escape was caught on video, providing a vivid, disturbing view for the world of the dangers faced by those who attempt to leave North Korea. These incidents, though they sometimes break into global awareness, only reveal a small part of the intense control and deep-seated fear experienced by North Koreans. The government works tirelessly to keep such stories from reaching the outside world, afraid that they would expose a national situation filled with oppression and sorrow. This intense suppression of different opinions, combined with orchestrated acts of loyalty to the leaders, leads observers to wonder how long such extreme isolation can continue before it becomes unsustainable. Each video that is smuggled out and every story that is secretly shared sheds more light on the harsh conditions North Koreans endure. The government's extreme measures to maintain control are clear evidence of its focus on keeping power at any cost, prioritizing its own stability over the welfare of its people. The citizens suffer not just under a harsh government, but are also trapped in a false belief in their leader's ultimate power, making their plight even more poignant, because their struggle is not only physical, but also mental and emotional. Such control is not just about keeping the people in line, it's about molding their very perceptions of reality, ensuring they cannot imagine a world different from the one the government portrays. This deep control affects every aspect of life in North Korea, from the information people can access to the harsh penalties for those who question the status quo. The continual enforcement of this narrative of infallibility in leadership cultivates a culture where dissent is not only discouraged, but downright dangerous. The stark reality of life in North Korea is occasionally punctuated by incidents that are so severe they manage to pierce the veil of secrecy, typically shrouding the country. One such incident involved a North Korean who died swiftly after coming into contact with a cloth soaked in a toxic substance. This occurred while he was being rushed to an airport, highlighting not only the severe dangers within the country, but also the lack of accountability for such lethal hazards. Meanwhile, the quick escape of 4 individuals identified as North Korean operatives from the same airport without any intervention starkly contrasts with the treatment of ordinary North Koreans, who often face inexplicable detentions and releases. This difference underscores a disturbing disparity in how justice is administered, particularly in cases involving the state's own agents versus its regular citizens. North Korea puts on a grand display of control during a manipulated public trial in Suji, revealing the oppressive hold of its leadership. During this show trial, people are publicly ridiculed and punished just for enjoying films and music from South Korea. The charges brought against them are severe and threaten long prison terms. This harsh treatment is a deliberate attempt to frighten the population and completely cut them off from foreign cultural influences. By making examples of a few, the government aims to spread fear widely and tighten its control over everyone. In another troubling aspect of life in North Korea, the country faces severe food shortages, a situation highlighted by a recent study from the Korea Government Institute in Seoul. In 2020, North Korea produced only 4 million tons of food, well below the 5.2 million tons it needed. This persistent lack of food, made worse by not enough imports and decreasing aid, offers a grim future. The United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization has said that this deficit will likely continue, signaling a long-lasting crisis. The most tragic impact of this situation is on North Korea's children under 5 years old, with 140,000 suffering from severe malnutrition. This puts them at a high risk of dying because the government cannot meet the most basic food needs of its people. Behind North Korea's facade, the role of female traffic police reveals a deep obsession with control. Police women as pawns of propaganda. North Korea also uses female traffic police in Pyongyang as part of its image control. These officers are chosen for their appearance and placed at major crossroads, serving not only as traffic regulators, but also as part of a broader effort to create an illusion of order and normalcy. The careful selection and placement of these women, who perform their duties with almost theatrical accuracy, show how the government values appearances more than the real welfare of its people. This blend of harsh public punishment, dire food shortages, and the calculated use of female traffic police paints a picture of a government that controls every part of life. From how people are seen publicly and how they interact with the world to what they eat and how they survive, everything is managed to maintain a facade of stability and control. This extensive control is maintained at the expense of the citizens' genuine well-being and freedom. Public trials and the manipulation of law enforcement are just parts of a broader strategy by the North Korean government to keep its people under a tight leash, prioritizing the government's image over the actual needs of the population. By using fear, starvation, and strategic placements of police as tools, the North Korean leadership enforces its rule and suppresses any signs of dissent or dissatisfaction. This environment not only stifles freedom, but also severely impacts the development and health of its citizens, especially the most vulnerable, like young children. The government's focus on maintaining a certain image through its female traffic police and other means distracts from the pressing issues of hunger and freedom, creating a facade that masks the harsh realities faced by the people. In the bustling heart of North Korea's capital, a unique scene unfolds on the streets. Traffic controllers, primarily women, are selected not just for their skills in managing the flow of vehicles, but also for their height, looks, and a particular type of feminine charm. These women go beyond their basic job descriptions. They become part of the city's allure, serving almost as living, breathing decorations that add to the aesthetic of the streets with their movements and smiles. This special role has transformed them into somewhat famous figures, recognized not just in North Korea, but around the world. The internet plays a major role in shaping their fame, with features like Pyongyang Traffic Girl of the Month that launch these state employees into an unusual kind of online popularity. This interest has expanded into various digital realms, from video games centered on these traffic controllers to internet forums filled with poems and passionate discussions by admirers who keenly follow their every move. The blend of respect and objectification that surrounds these women is cleverly designed for people worldwide to consume, perfectly wrapped up in the digital realm. Yet, this seemingly innocent fascination is deeply intertwined with state propaganda. These women are not only featured on websites, they are depicted in an idealized form on everything from postage stamps to flyers, and even scaled down into toys for children. The government's strategy goes beyond simple public relations. It's a deliberate effort to shape how the public sees women, pushing a very particular idea of beauty and behavior. The charming images these women project sharply contrast with the severe realities for those who cross the North Korean government. For instance, the story of Private Travis King, an American soldier, highlights this. Caught in a moment of confusion or curiosity, King ran across the North Korean border during a tour. His detention reminds us of the cold relationship between North Korea and much of the Western world, especially the United States, adding a serious layer to the otherwise tightly controlled image of North Korea. Similarly, the tragic story of Otto Warmbier, a student whose curiosity about North Korea ended in disaster, sheds light on the dangers of the regime. Accused of trying to steal a propaganda poster, Warmbier was sentenced to 15 years of hard labor. His injuries and death cast a long, dark shadow over the country's facade, showing the world the dangerous consequences of even minor offenses in North Korea. The difficult life in North Korea is made painfully clear by the harsh treatment of two young people who were simply caught watching foreign television dramas. The government in North Korea is very strict about keeping out foreign influences that could change the way people think or feel. The severe reaction to the teenagers watching a simple TV show is a strong example of how far the government will go to keep a tight hold on its citizens. It reminds us that under the outward show of pride and independence, there's a deep fear of outside ideas creeping in. The government's heavy-handed censorship of media from outside the country, especially from South Korea, which it dismissively calls a puppet regime, reveals its deep-seated paranoia. This censorship is part of a wider and more harmful plan to make sure North Koreans only hear the stories the government allows. This method has built a long-standing and deep dislike for South Korea, a feeling that has been drilled into the citizens over many years. The strict rules about media go beyond just blocking content. They completely ban any foreign books, movies, or TV shows. The consequences for bringing in or watching these banned items are not just strict. They are often overly severe and can include jail time. The government's goal is obvious: to cut off its people from the rest of the world, squash curiosity, and stop any quiet talks of disagreement or thoughts of a different kind of life. Within North Korea's strict rule, stories of bold escapes highlight the unyielding fight for freedom. From North Korea to China, unforgiving dynasty. The story then turns to an intense tale of resistance and the never-ending human desire for freedom. It tells of the dramatic escape of a 39-year-old man who managed to get away from the grip of both North Korean and Chinese jails in 2021. He first left North Korea in 2013, hoping to find a better life in China. But his life took a turn for the worse when he got involved in theft and ended up in jail. Facing the possibility of being sent back to North Korea, a fate he desperately wanted to avoid, he planned a bold escape. His escape was like something out of a movie. Climbing a building and jumping over a fence with electric wires, all while being chased by guards. The media coverage of the incident in China blew it up into something resembling a blockbuster movie, with a large reward offered that lured the public into imagining it as a critical search for a fugitive. This turned a real person's hardship into something people watched for entertainment, mixing real sympathy with a kind of gawking excitement. This story of chase and danger was served to an audience eager for the next exciting piece of news, converting true suffering into a drama for viewers to follow episode by episode. In a similar vein, the harsh reality of life in North Korea was vividly shown through the images of young children laboring at a ski resort. These weren't just everyday scenes, but were a deliberate display by the government to shape how the world sees them. By showing off how hard its children can work, North Korea tried to create a story of success and hardiness, while hiding a truth filled with abuse and force. These accounts highlight the deep control and intimidation that characterize North Korean leadership. The government's heavy surveillance and demand for complete compliance from its people secure its power, making it appear self-reliant and strong to the outside, while crushing any hint of disagreement within its borders. These tales reach across the world, sparking discussions about what it really means to be free and how much people will endure to gain even a little independence in face of overwhelming odds. During the severe North Korean winters, heavy with snow, a moving scenario plays out. Workers, poorly dressed for the cold, are seen doing intense physical work to keep a road open to what is said to be a lavish ski resort worth $35 million, just 3 hours away from Pyongyang. This place, promoted as a pinnacle of North Korean opulence, depends entirely on the hard work of its people to stay reachable. The effort to maintain this road with just basic tools can be seen either as a display of human determination or a desperate fight for survival, depending on your view. These laborers, some as young as 10 or 11 years old, use axes, sticks, and homemade shovels, sharply different from the sophisticated equipment typically used in similar settings worldwide. This contrast not only emphasizes the tough conditions these workers endure, but also showcases the government's dedication to maintain a flawless image of the resort, regardless of the costs to its people. Meanwhile, the situation of North Korean orphans has drawn international attention, with organizations in the United States highlighting their plight. The United States government, through the North Korean Child Welfare Act of 2012, has made significant efforts to help these children, particularly those hidden away in neighboring countries. The act aims to make it easier for family members to reunite and for orphans to be adopted, spotlighting the vast differences in how child welfare is approached by the global community compared to North Korea's strict regime. There's a stark contrast between North Korea's ongoing efforts to highlight its large, expensive projects as symbols of power and the relentless work by activists to shine a light on the country's human rights issues. The North Korean government seems intent on impressing the global community with its spectacular and lavish events, seemingly uncaring about the serious humanitarian problems that these spectacles exacerbate. Workers labor under hard conditions to keep up appearances at luxury resorts meant for a select few, while the international community tries to help the many orphaned children suffering in the shadows. This stark contrast makes it painfully obvious that the government's priorities are misaligned with the real needs of its people. In a country so focused on maintaining a polished image of wealth and perfection, the harsh realities that its workers and many neglected children face are both disturbing and enlightening. It becomes clear that the government cares more about how things look than about the welfare of its citizens. Each year, many North Koreans, especially young people, escape to South Korea seeking a better life. When they arrive, the South Korean government offers them chances for citizenship, adoption, and education. Once in South Korea, these young North Koreans are placed in institutions like boarding schools, dormitories, or group homes that aim to provide them with security and a fresh start. Even with these supports in place, adapting to a new culture is incredibly challenging. They must deal with the emotional pain of leaving their families and familiar surroundings behind. Meanwhile, back in North Korea, the situation in prisons is dire and horrifying. People who have been imprisoned there share chilling stories of human rights abuses such as torture, physical assault, forced abortions, and being kept in isolation without any legal proceedings. Food shortages are so severe that inmates often eat insects just to survive. Amid staged shows of power, the real struggles and cruelty under Kim Jong-un's rule come to light. Collecting testimonies against tyranny. These terrible conditions are carefully recorded by organizations such as Korea Future, which works to expose the real conditions inside North Korea, especially in its prisons. These efforts reveal a government that, despite trying to appear powerful and prosperous, dramatically fails to protect the fundamental human dignity of its own people. The documents and testimonies collected by these organizations are crucial in understanding the extent of the cruelty and neglect that occur under the North Korean regime, highlighting the need for continued international attention and action. Korea Future has used various methods to gather strong evidence about the tough conditions in the prisons of North Korea. They've looked into official documents, checked satellite images, and listened to stories from people who have lived through these harsh realities. They went beyond just collecting information. They also built three-dimensional models of the prisons to give everyone a clearer view of the oppression happening there. Their research highlights the awful state of these detention centers and also brings up moral questions about how we show and talk about such delicate issues. By focusing on these shocking stories, they attract more attention and money. But this also risks making the suffering into something for others to simply watch from afar. We have to ask ourselves whether we're just onlookers or if we're truly trying to help solve these problems. Looking more closely at the situation in North Korea, we find countless tales of people struggling to survive under a brutal system. These stories of people who managed to escape show both their incredible strength and the terrible things they had to endure. These narratives reach people worldwide, shaping how we see North Korea and its citizens. We're challenged to think critically and sift through our feelings of pity and fascination to really understand the human stories behind the headlines. The reports of human rights abuses are staggering. They include torture and even fatalities, painting a clear and terrifying picture of a country where cruelty is common. These numbers, as shocking as they are, remind us how deep the issues run and how they're often hidden behind official actions. One especially sad story is that of a young woman, only 23, who was found dead from neglect. Her life was a constant fight against hunger and being alone, which became painfully obvious when she was found in an empty field. Once full of life, she had been reduced to gathering grass to feed animals, a desperate act to survive. Her death, which came after she secretly spoke to international media, shows the harsh reality that the world's response often comes too late to save lives. Another distressing tale involves two men who used to fish but got caught in a deadly conflict because of their captain's abuse, leading to the deaths of 16 other people. Their experience is a harsh reminder of the severe nature of life under strict rule. It shows not just their fight to stay alive, but also the dark influence such a regime has on its people. In their desperate attempt to escape, a group tried to flee to South Korea, seeking safety and democracy. However, they were caught and harshly sent back to North Korea. A video from 2019 starkly shows this distressing moment as they are dragged back across the border, where they likely faced execution. This harsh welcome back, arranged by North Korean officials, clearly shows their harsh policy against those who try to leave the country. These stories reflect the deep inequalities and wrongs that are widespread across the world. They tell of violence and the denial of basic rights, but also point out a widespread lack of concern that allows these issues to continue. Every so often, there is a global outcry to protect these rights, but this support is short-lived, soon overtaken by other news. This pattern of brief attention followed by neglect shows a bigger problem in society. We fail to keep focused on important human rights issues long enough to make real changes. Kim Jong-un's choice of transportation adds a darkly dramatic twist to these issues. He prefers to travel in a bulletproof train, which is more like a moving military command center than just a train. It is equipped with high-level military weapons and filled with extravagant features that seem out of place in a train. The striking yellow decorations not only make the train stand out, but also act as a bold statement of power and control. Kim's trips on this fortified train, including visits to South Korea and a significant trip to Russia to meet with President Vladimir Putin, highlight his love for dramatic effects and his intense need for security. His use of this heavily guarded train shows his approach to leadership. He is willing to engage with the world, but always from a position of safety, ready to deal with any threats. This contrast between luxury and harsh control offers a disturbing view of contradiction. This complex scenario underlines not just the personal drama of those trying to escape harsh regimes, but also the broader political maneuvers that keep such leaders in power. The cycle of fleeing and capture, highlighted by such dramatic videos, isn't just a one-time event, but a recurring theme that mirrors the ongoing struggle between oppression and the quest for freedom. The international community's fleeting attention to such crises often fades before any real progress is made, leaving those who suffer in a state of perpetual hopelessness. Meanwhile, leaders like Kim Jong-un continue to showcase their power and readiness to counter any external pressures, reinforcing their positions through displays of military might and personal opulence, even as many under their rule continue to suffer. Even as North Korea showcases its might, the harsh truth of its prison camps exposes a regime of cruelty and fear. Traveling, like an ancient warlord. North Korea's armored train, extravagantly called a moving fortress by South Korea's Ministry of Unification, isn't so much a wonder of technology as it is a blunt illustration of the country's fixation on military power. This train, equipped with thick walls, bulletproof glass, and built to resist explosions, moves slowly and heavily through the countryside. It is fully armed and always surrounded by a large group of guards. Kim Jong-un's choice to travel in such a train reveals his love for dramatic shows of force, resembling more the tactics of an old-time warlord than those of a modern leader. The train seems to act as both a literal and metaphorical shield, separating him in his armored bubble from the citizens he governs with a harsh grip. Yet, the grim reality of this train pales in comparison to the deeper and more troubling history of the regime's human rights violations. Take, for instance, Camp 22, a notorious labor camp reportedly closed down in 2012, which still remains a symbol of governmental cruelty in the minds of many. This camp, isolated from any outside contact and heavily secured, wasn't just a prison, but a place where terrible suffering was commonplace. Ex-guards recount how shocked they were when they first saw the prisoners, who looked more like haunting shadows than people, their clothes in tatters and their bodies often disfigured from relentless abuse. The horror doesn't stop at the confines of labor camps. Throughout North Korea, the so-called justice system subjects people to harsh and humiliating treatment, treating them as less than human even before they face trial. Human Rights Watch reports that inside these detention centers, people are forced into dirty, tiny spaces, pushed into admitting crimes they didn't commit, left without proper clothes, and barely fed. The aim is obvious. These tactics are designed not just to keep people locked up, but to crush their will, making their lives an ongoing nightmare. On the other hand, Kim Jong-un travels securely in his train, a fortress on wheels that is supposed to keep any threat at bay. This sharp contrast is both shocking and appalling. A leader shielded in an almost impenetrable layer of defense, while his people suffer daily under oppressive and cruel conditions. This stark difference between the luxurious safety in which Kim shelters himself and the harsh oppression his people endure isn't just ironic. It's a disturbing reflection of a leader who places his own safety above the well-being of his nation. This situation, where vast resources are devoted to protecting one individual while many others suffer, doesn't show strength, but rather highlights the deep-seated fear and vulnerability at the core of the regime. As stories of control and abuse continue to emerge, they paint a deeply troubling image of a country dominated by a leader with clear, harmful intentions. The world watches from afar, trying to understand the situation by connecting small pieces of information, such as reports of a heavily guarded train or distressing stories of people suffering. These bits of information show a government that combines both glory and cruelty, creating a disturbing yet intriguing scenario. This government's actions will likely leave a lasting negative mark on history, depicting a country governed by a leadership as strong as it is intimidating. In North Korea, the harsh reality of prison camps casts a long, dark shadow, affecting not just the prisoners, but also their families. These families suffer endlessly, not knowing what has happened to their imprisoned relatives. People who oppose the government are quickly taken away, vanishing into hidden jails without a trial, and there is hardly any news about them from outside. What happens to them remains unknown, their stories untold and forgotten, leaving a gap filled with quiet despair. Reports from organizations like the United Nations suggest that these harsh prisons might hold more than 120,000 people. The conditions inside are extremely harsh. People hardly have enough to eat, they are forced to work very hard, and being tortured is common. Horrific actions, like eliminating newborn babies or forcing women to abort pregnancies, are done openly, turning personal suffering into public horror. For many years, the number of deaths in these camps has grown to be in the hundreds of thousands. Each death quietly points to a disaster that continues without enough global intervention. Besides these camps for political prisoners, the government also runs other prisons for those who have committed less severe crimes. The detention centers in North Korea are often ignored, but they are as harsh and cruel as the more well-known ones. These places reflect a government that likes to be harsh and keep tight control over everything. The camps are just part of how the entire country pushes down on its people and keeps them under strict rules. Living in North Korea is like constantly being watched. Every move people make, every word they speak, and even their thoughts could be seen as betrayal. In North Korea, being yourself can be dangerous, and everyone lives under the fear of being punished for even the smallest mistakes. When some people manage to escape these camps, they share terrible stories about what happens inside. These stories show the world how badly people's rights are being ignored and abused in North Korea. When these stories reach the rest of the world, they make people think about what needs to happen to make a real difference. These ongoing terrible acts highlight the fight for human rights that is still very much needed for those who are suffering. The harsh truth of these conditions makes it clear that the world needs to do more than just talk about the problem. The international community has a duty to take real steps to help those who are hurting and to hold the leaders of North Korea responsible for their actions. There needs to be a clear plan to bring justice to the victims and stop these abuses from continuing. However, even though the international community sometimes condemns North Korea, the daily lives of those in the camps are still filled with suffering. Slow actions on the world stage do little to help them right now. This ongoing crisis shows the challenges we face in dealing with human rights abuses everywhere. It challenges the effectiveness of international law and the will to enforce it, continually testing the commitment of the global community to making a meaningful change. Could these intense emotional displays in North Korea hide even more sinister truths? What do you think? Share your thoughts, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more insights.